You remember when Tom and Jerry was pure chaos. Frying pans, explosions, and no one saying, "That's too much for kids." Then one day, they stopped hurting each other, started smiling, and you knew somebody had messed with your cartoon. The wrong Tom and Jerry. The memory usually starts with sound, a crash that rattled the room, music that sprinted ahead of the picture, a scream that felt louder than the TV should allow. You did not wait for anything to begin. The chase already lived on the screen. Then comes the cut.
On the Tom and Jerry Show.
The picture turns cleaner. The lines look smoother. The movement slows just enough for you to notice it. Tom and Jerry face each other, and instead of planning damage, they grin. The hit that should land hard arrives softly. The moment that should explode simply ends. Do you remember the first time Tom and Jerry stopped trying to hurt each other? As a kid, you did not frame it as a problem. You felt it as confusion. Your mind expected a rhythm that never arrived. The setup came. The pause came. The payoff stayed polite. One day the show felt loud and dangerous. Another day it felt careful and friendly. That shift didn't come with any kind of heads up. One day you just turned on the TV, maybe on a lazy Saturday morning or some random weekday afternoon, and something about Tom and Jerry just felt different. The title card looked the same, the characters seemed right at a glance, but the energy had wandered off somewhere else. So, what exactly happened in 1975? The Tom and Jerry everyone remembers. The version burned into memory came from theatrical shorts produced between 1940 and 1958. Created by William Hanna and Joseph Barbera, these cartoons moved with purpose. Every second counted. Every action pushed the next one forward. Dialogue stayed minimal. Music did the heavy lifting. The orchestra warned you before danger arrived. A quiet pause carried tension because you already knew what followed. Tom chased. Jerry outsmarted. Consequences landed. The comedy trusted you. It did not slow down to explain a gag or soften its edge. Timing mattered more than comfort. That confidence came from the theatrical format. These shorts played in cinemas before feature films, fighting for attention in a loud room. When television picked them up, something unexpected happened. The cartoons got a second life. They ran endlessly through the 1960s and early 1970s. After school, weekday afternoons, weekend blocks that felt endless. You were usually sitting on the floor, the TV already on, snacks nearby, parents talking somewhere in the background. The same episodes repeated, yet they never wore out. Each viewing revealed something new. A background gag you missed before. A reaction frame that flashed past too quickly last time. A music cue that suddenly made sense. For many viewers, this became the baseline. This was Tom and Jerry. Fast, loud, unapologetic. Even kids born years after the original releases grew up on this version because television kept it alive. That is why the later shift landed so hard. It felt like someone changed the rhythm of a song already playing in your head. That rhythm lived in your body, and one day, it felt unfamiliar. Censorship, complaints, and TV anxiety. By the early 1970s, children's television entered a new phase. Networks faced pressure from parents' groups, advocacy organizations, and internal standards departments. The conversation shifted toward influence, behavior, and responsibility. Cartoons became a focal point. Physical comedy drew attention. Explosions raised eyebrows. Scenes once treated as harmless fun now faced scrutiny. Smoking, exaggerated impacts, and stereotypes all became topics of concern. Tom and Jerry sat squarely in that spotlight. Its entire format relied on pursuit, conflict, and constant physical escalation. Broadcasters reacted by trimming episodes, adjusting edits, and pulling certain shorts from rotation. As a kid, you did not know adults were arguing about cartoons. You just knew something you loved was suddenly missing. If you noticed episodes disappearing from schedules, you noticed something real. Moments you expected never arrived. If you caught sudden fades before a big moment, that change came from editing rooms rather than faulty memory. This atmosphere shaped every decision moving forward. New productions needed to avoid problems before they even surfaced. The changes happened quietly, without explanation, right in the middle of your routine viewing. The goal shifted toward content that traveled easily across regions and time slots. Television sought material that required fewer edits, fewer disclaimers, and fewer complaints. That pressure influenced tone, pacing, and structure. What you felt as confusion on the couch started as caution behind the scenes. This created a clear direction. New episodes needed to feel safer from the start. That choice reached into animation style, story design, and character behavior. The stage set itself long before the first 1975 episode aired. What actually changed in 1975? When Tom and Jerry came back in 1975, it looked familiar at first. Same names, same faces, but the feeling changed almost right away. The movement slowed down. That is why the chase felt shorter. In the older cartoons, the chase kept climbing. The music grew louder and faster. You expected the crash to arrive right on time. In the newer episodes, the chase began, then slowed down before anything big happened. That is why the silence felt awkward. Moments that once rushed into the next gag now paused. The screen stayed still longer. You waited for something to happen, but nothing followed. The timing felt loose instead of tight. That is why the hit did not land. The setup still appeared. The pan lifted. The fall lined up. You expected impact. The contact came softer, or not at all. The release never matched the build. The relationship changed too. Tom and Jerry stopped crashing into each other all the time. They shared scenes. They worked together. The push and pull that drove everything before faded into cooperation. The look changed along with it. Lines grew smoother. Colors grew brighter. The world around them felt calm instead of reactive. It no longer felt dangerous. It felt controlled. Now it felt like a different show. New characters showed up. The stories turned into simple adventures. Movement replaced conflict. Action happened without consequence. If you remember Tom and Jerry skateboarding, teaming up, or wandering through safer situations, you remember this version clearly. You knew what you were watching, but it did not hit the same place. You were not imagining that feeling. It came from many small changes stacking together. Each one shifted how the cartoon landed in your body. Tom and Jerry stayed on TV, but the rhythm you learned no longer matched what you saw. If this is bringing back specific memories, you are not alone. Many people felt the change at the time, even if they could not explain it yet. And if you enjoy revisiting the shows you grew up with and understanding why they felt the way they did, subscribe and stay with us for more. Fan backlash and quiet confusion.
Tom and Jerry, the new champ!
But even though the show kept going and the jokes still landed, that old spark just wasn't quite there. A lot of viewers couldn't really put their finger on it at the time. They kept watching because, hey, it's still Tom and Jerry, right? But deep down, there was this unspoken feeling of something's missing. It wasn't until years later, when people started talking about it online, that the words really came out. Suddenly, you'd see folks calling the 1975 version softened or sanitized, not out of anger, but just that feeling that something they loved had changed. Older kids back then noticed it right away. The first episode felt different. The tension was toned down, and the whole vibe felt like a tamer version of what they remembered. For younger kids who grew up with the 75 episodes, that was just their normal Tom and Jerry. It wasn't until they saw the older shorts later on that they realized, oh, that's why it felt different. It was like a light bulb moment where all those subtle differences suddenly made sense. Why 1975? Tom and Jerry looked and sounded so different. The visual change did not come from carelessness. It came from limits you never saw. Episodes had to be made fast, movement repeated, background stayed simple. As a viewer, you did not think about time or money. You just noticed that the world felt flatter and calmer than before. It wasn't chaotic, it wasn't interesting. The sound changed too, and that part stood out even more. The old cartoons filled every second with music. The orchestra pushed the chase forward. It warned you. It carried you into the hit. In the newer episodes, that sound pulled back. The silence felt uncomfortable. You were used to wall-to-wall noise. When the music dropped out, it felt wrong. You waited for the next cue, but the screen stayed quiet. The moment hung there longer than it should have. The writing shifted along with it. The rules changed. Tom and Jerry could not crash into each other the same way anymore. The constant chase gave way to teamwork, small problems, and safer situations. The gag lined itself up, then stepped back. You felt the stop before you understood it. Those long pauses you remember. Those moments where a joke almost went far enough. They came from limits stacked on top of each other. Time, sound, movement, rules. Together, they changed how the cartoon landed. and we felt it. Reruns, confusion, and mixed memories. Those 1975 episodes didn't show up on their own. They got tossed into reruns right alongside the classic shorts. TV didn't explain the difference. It didn't label anything. One day you'd see a fast, chaotic theatrical short, and the next day you'd get a much calmer 1975 episode. No warning, no context. For a lot of kids, that was confusing. Especially if you were young, you just felt the shift without knowing why. Some channels leaned on the safer episodes during the day. Others mixed everything together at random, and that mashup stuck with people for years. It wasn't until much later that viewers realized they'd been watching different versions of the same characters. That's when the debate started. Some fans point to 1975 as the turning point. Others defend it because that's what they grew up with. And honestly, both sides make sense. Whatever you saw the most became your version of Tom and Jerry. That's why this era still comes up. It sits right between nostalgia and comparison, and it makes people rethink what they thought they remembered. Was it really ruined? The emotional response remains real. For many viewers, the 1975 change felt like a break from everything that made Tom and Jerry special. That feeling deserves respect. At the same time, the broader picture adds perspective. Television evolved rapidly during the 1970s. Standards shifted, expectations changed, long-running characters adapted or disappeared. Tom and Jerry adjusted to survive that landscape. The softer tone allowed continued broadcast. The safer design kept the brand visible. The changes carried the characters forward into new decades. That doesn't erase the loss some viewers felt. It just helps explain it. The show wasn't breaking down. It was adjusting to pressure, new rules, and a different TV world. Today, the 1975 episodes carry their own kind of nostalgia. They belong to a very specific moment in television, when audiences were changing and cartoons had to play it safer. Not better, not worse, just different. If you grew up with this version, it remains yours. If you struggled with the shift, that reaction still makes sense. The day Tom and Jerry were called ruined also marked a turning point. The show became something else, safer, stranger, still unforgettable in its own way. Today, those 1975 episodes sit in a familiar, almost comforting place. For some people, that's the version they remember most. For others, it's a reminder of how TV used to mix things up without telling you.